I thought my wife loved me. We had been married for 10 years, and I worked day and night to provide for us. And then I accidentally received a notification about a luxury suite reservation at a hotel, in her name. At that moment, I realized that she wasn't just cheating, she was planning her escape with another man, leaving me with nothing. The morning light filtered through our bedroom curtains as I woke up at 5 a.m., just like I had done for the past decade. Laura was still asleep, her blonde hair spread across the pillow, her breathing soft and rhythmic. I slipped out of bed quietly, not wanting to disturb her. She needed her rest, at least, that's what I always told myself. I headed to the kitchen to brew coffee before getting ready for another 12-hour shift. The construction company I worked for had just landed a big commercial project, which meant overtime pay. Extra money that would go straight into our savings account, the one earmarked for the down payment on a bigger house in a better neighborhood. That had been our dream for years. A real home, not this two-bedroom rental that was supposed to be temporary. Laura deserved better, and I was determined to give it to her. I left a note on the counter, something I did every morning: "Have a great day, beautiful. Dinner at 7. Next to it, I placed a small chocolate, her favorite kind. A tiny gesture that had become our tradition. Throughout the day, between hauling materials and coordinating with subcontractors, I checked my phone for her usual text. It came around noon: "Miss you. Be safe." 3 words that kept me going through the exhaustion. By the time I arrived home that evening, my back ached and my hands were calloused, but I managed to stop by the grocery store to pick up ingredients for Laura's favorite pasta dish. I wanted to surprise her. She greeted me with a kiss at the door, looking radiant in a new dress I hadn't seen before. "You look amazing," I said, setting down the groceries. "Special occasion?" "Just felt like dressing up for my hard-working husband," she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I got a call from Karen earlier. She needs some girl time this weekend. Thought I'd drive up to see her Saturday morning, come back Sunday night. That okay?" Karen was her college roommate who lived about 3 hours away. Nothing unusual about the request. Of course, I nodded. "I'll probably pick up an extra shift anyway." Laura's face brightened. "Perfect. Now, what's for dinner?" That evening passed like countless others in our decade-long marriage. We ate dinner, watched a movie on the couch, and went to bed early because I had another early start the next day. Later that week, on Friday evening, I was sitting in our living room going through some paperwork for the construction project when my phone vibrated. A notification from my banking app: "Luxury suite reservation, $1,500, confirmed." I stared at the screen, confused. I hadn't booked anything. With mounting suspicion, I opened the app and checked the transaction details. My stomach dropped when I saw the name, Laura Mitchell. My wife was sitting just a few feet away on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, acting as if nothing was happening. "Did you book something?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She looked up, blinked once, and there was a fraction of a second where I saw it, panic, before her expression smoothed out. No. What are you talking about?" "I just got a notification about a hotel reservation." She shrugged, too casually. "Must be a mistake. You know how these apps glitch sometimes." I nodded, pretending to accept her explanation, but something cold settled in my chest. After 10 years together, I knew when Laura was lying. That night, I couldn't sleep. Laura's breathing beside me seemed artificially deep, like she was pretending. When I was certain she was finally asleep, I carefully reached for her phone on the nightstand. The passcode? Easy, our wedding anniversary. 10 years of marriage reduced to 4 digits that unlocked her betrayal. I scrolled through her messages, and there it was, a conversation with someone saved as K in her contacts. But this wasn't Karen. "Just a little longer, darling. After this weekend, I'll tell him I'm leaving." "Are you sure everything's going according to plan?" Yes, he doesn't suspect a thing. After the divorce, I'll get half of everything, and we can be together. The house too. Of course. Plus he has a substantial 401k. He's been saving for years. I read through months of messages, each one more devastating than the last. They had been planning this for almost a year. Laura had been meticulously cataloging our assets, consulting with a divorce attorney behind my back, and planning the perfect exit strategy. All while I worked 60-hour weeks to build a future for us. I put her phone back exactly as I'd found it and lay awake until dawn, feeling nothing but a cold, calculating clarity. The next morning, I told Laura I needed to drive to a neighboring city for an emergency at one of our project sites. The supplier delivered the wrong materials. I need to sort it out personally or we'll fall behind schedule. She kissed me goodbye with what seemed like genuine affection. Drive safe, babe. I'll miss you. As I backed out of the driveway, I watched her through the rearview mirror. The moment she thought I was gone, she pulled out her phone. I didn't need to see the message to know what it said. I had read it preemptively on her phone: he's gone. See you at the hotel. But I didn't head to any construction site. Instead, I drove straight to my bank and spent the next 2 hours making careful arrangements. Our joint account, which held most of our savings, was emptied and transferred to a new account in my name only. I had documentation proving that I had contributed over 90% of those funds. Next, I visited a lawyer I had researched overnight. Richard Hoffman specialized in divorces where one spouse was attempting to hide assets or commit financial infidelity. "Do you have proof of the affair?" he asked after I explained my situation. I showed him screenshots I had taken of Laura's messages. "This is good," he nodded. "But we need more. Financial evidence especially." I hadn't thought of that, but Richard guided me through accessing our credit history. That's when I discovered something shocking: Laura had opened 3 credit cards in her name that I knew nothing about. The combined debt was over $30,000. "She's been living a double life," Richard explained. "These charges, luxury clothing, high-end restaurants, weekend getaways, they're consistent with someone maintaining an affair." By late afternoon, we had drafted divorce papers citing infidelity and financial deception. The house, which I had purchased before our marriage with an inheritance from my grandfather, was solely in my name. Laura had always pushed me to add her to the deed, claiming it was just a formality, but something had always made me hesitate. That hesitation had saved me. While Laura was enjoying her weekend with her lover, I systematically dismantled the life she thought she was going to steal from me. I removed her from my health insurance, car insurance, and cell phone plan. I contacted our credit card companies and reported her cards as compromised, requesting new ones be sent only to me. But the most satisfying part came next. Using the contact information I had found in Laura's phone, I composed an email to her lover, a man named Kevin Barnes. "Kevin. We haven't met, but I believe you're planning a future with my wife, Laura. Before you proceed, I thought you should know about her financial situation. Attached is a detailed statement of her personal debts, which total $30,742.18. These debts are solely in her name and will remain her responsibility after our divorce. Also attached is a copy of our prenuptial agreement, which she seems to have forgotten about, that protects my premarital assets, including our house and my retirement accounts. I wish you both happiness. Regards, Michael Mitchell." I hit send and felt a weight lift from my shoulders. On Sunday evening, I sat in the living room with Laura's packed suitcases by the door. When her key turned in the lock, I remained perfectly still, watching as she entered with a relaxed smile that vanished the moment she saw me. "Mike. I thought you were still." Her voice died when she saw the luggage. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice small. I stood up and handed her a manila envelope. "Divorce papers." She stared at the envelope without taking it. "What are you talking about?" I know about Kevin, I said calmly. I know about your plans for this weekend, about your strategy to take half of everything I've worked for. I know about the secret credit cards and the debt you've been hiding. The color drained from her face. Mike, we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You should check your email. I sent Kevin some interesting information about your financial situation. I'm curious if he's still interested in a future with you now that he knows you won't be bringing my house or my savings to the relationship. Laura frantically pulled out her phone and began typing. I watched as her expression shifted from panic to horror. He's not responding, she whispered. Try calling him. Her hands shaking, she dialed his number. I could hear it go straight to voicemail. She tried again. And again. He blocked me, she said, tears welling in her eyes. You had no right. I had every right, I interrupted. Just like you had every right to plan to leave me. The difference is, I'm not lying about it. She collapsed onto the couch, the reality of her situation sinking in. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You have family. Or perhaps Karen, your actual friend Karen, not the one you've been pretending to visit, might take you in. Laura looked up at me, her mascara running down her cheeks. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did, I replied calmly. You just didn't expect to get caught. I handed her the divorce papers again. You have until tomorrow to sign these and leave. The terms are non-negotiable, but they're fair. You keep your car and your personal possessions. I keep the house and my retirement accounts. We split the furniture. And your debt remains yours alone. And if I don't sign, she challenged, a flash of the calculating woman I'd discovered in those text messages showing through her tears. Then we can let a judge decide after I present evidence of your affair and financial deception. Your choice. She took the papers with trembling hands. I loved you once, you know. Maybe. But not enough to be honest with me. I stood up and headed toward the bedroom. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Be gone by tomorrow evening. As I closed the door, I heard her phone ringing repeatedly as she tried to reach Kevin. Later, I heard her sobbing, making calls to friends, frantically trying to find a place to stay. The next morning, I left for work before she woke up. When I returned that evening, the divorce papers were signed on the kitchen counter, and Laura's suitcases were gone. She had left her key and wedding ring beside the documents. It's been 6 months since that day. I later learned that Kevin had been seeing another woman simultaneously and had chosen her once he realized Laura wouldn't be bringing the financial windfall she had promised. People ask if I feel satisfied with how things turned out. The truth is more complicated. I don't feel the vindication I expected. Instead, I feel a quiet relief, like I've survived a disaster I never saw coming. The house feels empty sometimes, but it's mine. My life is simpler now. I work, save, and have started reconnecting with friends Laura had slowly separated me from over the years. Yesterday, I received the final divorce decree in the mail. As I signed for the package, my neighbor Susan smiled and asked if I wanted to join her family for dinner sometime. I said yes. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone completely again. But I'm learning that freedom, real freedom, isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your life and moving forward on your own terms. And that's something no one can take from me again.